Hello, everybody. Welcome back or welcome to the Sound Mind Strategies podcast. This is episode number 40. And alongside me is my wonderful wife. Now a mother, 3 weeks.
3 weeks into motherhood.
Yeah,
Yay.
yeah. How are you doing?
I'm a little sleep deprived some days.
Are you?
But I'm getting naps in like a little toddler, I feel like. Like I got to get my naps in so I'm not cranky.
Oh, you're doing great. Does it feel like we're whispering?
It does.
I know. Okay, so here's the rundown. This is stab number probably 3 or 4, probably 4 of trying to record this podcast. This is a whole nother day even into trying. Like we tried several times and then we're like, you know what? He's just not having it. So
no,
we just do what we can and stay flexible. But it's been fun.
It's been fun. Yeah, we're like, okay, you know what? Let's see if he'll lay down tonight. So currently we're watching him on little camera. And
yes, I love technology. Like he's literally like kind of right next to us. But we got live cam, we got live feed on him and can hear and see and everything he's doing. So it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah. So how have you been doing? I mean, you're 3 weeks into it too, and it affects dads.
Well, it does, but completely differently. I'm enjoying it. Like it's every day is new. Every day is learning. Every day is like, you kind of think you have something figured out, but he just completely changes his mind on what he's going to do that day. So I'm having so much fun. Like, I guess a 3-week-old doesn't really do a lot, but I'm just having a blast with it. Like just all the little faces he makes and everything. It's just been...
Got him his fun little black and white flashcards.
Yeah. He's just a blessing.
Too. Yeah, he is a blessing. He's God's gift is what his name means. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that's cool. Theodore.
Yeah. So anyways.
Yeah. And so really back to work this week for me. Mm-hmm. You're taking some extended time with little dude. So that's going to be really good. But it was kind of tough. Like, being back at work today. Today was day 1 back and it was tough. I was kind of, my heart was definitely here, wanting to be here, but I obviously I knew it was coming. The countdown was on the day I was going to go back, but it was just like, go with a grateful heart and just be a blessing to the people you're going to be around. And
that's awesome.
No, it was fun. Like I had a good day. Like it was good to see everyone and kind of get back into the routine. It didn't skip a beat. They weren't waiting on me, but no, it's good.
Life went on. Yeah. Awesome.
How are you doing, like, aside from, just having a baby, so you've been time off of training and, like you had, I don't want to say 9 months off because you're still fairly active, but, you had that decline through the pregnancy of like the activity level that you could actually do and just what you wanted to do.
Right.
You're still looking at some time postpartum and healing and everything else. And you got your eyes on anything? Like we may have talked about this kind of just like in passing, but
yeah. The big thing I think is definitely can't wait to get back into riding my bike again. Actually being able to do a little jogging too. I did a little bit of that while I was pregnant and to kind of do some family. I'm going to pick out like a family 5K for us to all do, probably September, October. Give us something to look forward to do as a family. I'm looking forward to that. And yeah, I kind of like I was telling you, it'd be fun to do some more Zwift racing again. I did enjoy that, have that competitiveness, that drive to do that. So maybe kind of do that.
Yeah. So for people who aren't maybe familiar with what you just mentioned, what Zwift is, what is that? This is not a sponsorship. This is not an ad. This is just kind of something.
Yeah, just something we do. It's just basically a computer game for adults is how I explain to people. You get to put your bike on and ride on these like virtual lands and actually meet with other people all around the world, even in your local city, whatever. And you like ride your bike.
So it kind of is super convenient for someone. I guess the best way, maybe most people probably seen ads for like Peloton. It's kind of like an indoor bike meets virtual world or meetup kind of socials thing. Yeah, it's kind of neat. So you can be super efficient with your time, still get your structure in without necessarily having to leave home. Sometimes it's nice too, but when you just really have that drive and want to do something and your time's kind of limited and just kind of get her done. So that's kind of something that you got in the future, kind of eyes on the horizon of just like getting back, being a little competitive.
Yeah, exactly. Once I get cleared from the doctor. So it's a 6-week clearing process. So that'll be amazing.
You look like you're doing great. I mean, obviously I'm not just trying to say that as a nice, supportive husband, but no, I mean, you're like, if I was coaching you, like I would say, things are right on track. You're looking good. We'd probably start doing some progressive, just like not working out necessarily, but like, hey, let's start just moving the body a little bit, getting on some walks and, maybe do some light body weight stuff, some push-ups and just stuff just to kind of get the body ready to be ready.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I've been trying to get some walks in when I can. So it's been nice. This weekend was beautiful. So I was able to do some of that too. So
get the boys out and
exactly.
Yeah. Good.
Take them around town.
So kind of fast forward, and that's kind of our laundry list and housekeeping stuff of what's going on in our home. What do you got on the docket today?
So really what's been on my heart for us to talk about today is really looking at what it looks like or what it requires from us to be able to champion others in our lives.
Championing others. I think that's a really good topic. You and I have it's been highlighted within several episodes. Mm-hmm. I kind of mentioned that a lot, and I guess it's a really good idea to kind of break it down and let it be its own episode on what it is to champion others, what's required.
Sometimes it's hard to do.
Yeah, why it's hard, why it's important. Like, what does it take? Can anyone do it, or is it just something that just some people are just naturally gifted at? So right. I think it's going to be a fun topic. I'm excited to get into it. So you guys know the routine by now. Our dedicated tribe listeners. So just find that comfy spot, crank up the earbuds, and enjoy the episode. So what does it take to champion others? What does it mean? I guess let's start at the beginning. What does championing even mean?
Great question. So really, for me, it means to be able to acknowledge someone for what they've worked towards, perhaps what they're working currently on or attempting to work towards. And just even noticing that when I acknowledge the goodness and potential in other people, it helps me be able to recognize that it's also within me as well. So kind of like when I champion you, I also champion me in a way too.
That's a cool thought.
Yeah, it's kind of how I look at it, and to me, it's very gratifying and very it's kind of like I get that kind of that endorphin rush from being able to acknowledge other people for something that they're working on or working towards, whatever it may be. I feel good because you can see that they feel good being able to receive those kind comments too. So that's basically like what championing, means to me. What about you? Like when you think about it, what does it look like to you?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. To me, championing is just finding those points of hard work, determination in others, just something that means something to them, like to be able to recognize and acknowledge their effort and their achievements.
Yes.
Not necessarily outcome based, but just acknowledging the process that they're on, the journey they're on, the hard work that they've been putting into something. So, I mean, it can span, I know on this podcast, we kind of talk about all different topics. Athletics is is a hot topic for us. We're both athletes, or at least to, partake in a lot of athletic events. But I mean, in anything, like being new parents or careers or anything that you're really kind of intentionally doing, to acknowledge that to acknowledge the effort that someone else is putting in, like to champion them in there. The way I visualize it is being the support beams underneath, like a pier, like when you can see the exposed beams that go out into the ocean or whatever. Like, I think to champion someone is to be that support beam. I'm not necessarily like lifting them up doing something, but like that's, for some reason, that's the way my mind references championing, just like to come under them and just say, I see that support, or I see that effort that you're putting into this. And, it doesn't go unnoticed. Like, you might not have the outcome that you want yet, but I see the hard work.
Yeah.
And that's what really means something to me.
I like that, because in a way you are supporting them. Like, you're supporting them in their efforts.
And there's so many beams under there, so they all take different shape. Like people's support system, like some might need a coach, some might need different kinds of support. But I think the championing part of that is support, is that moral support. It's more than just like the pat on the back of like, hey, good job, buddy. But it's like a real,
there's like a little more intentionality behind it too. And it's like, can be a little bit more like specific. Like, that
was the very next thing. Yeah. Be very specific in your championing verbiage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I know when people have told me good job, as opposed to, wow, I really liked how you did da-da-da-da, or I saw that you did da-da-da-da. It's just like, oh, wow, thanks. It's like, I see that you really observed me and observed what I did. So like, you actually took time.
You're not giving me lip service.
Exactly.
Like, you're supposed to say something nice to me right now.
Right. Exactly. It's like,
no, I think that goes a long way. There's a lot of things of just like, hey, good job. Good job at what? What did I do that highlighted good job or good effort to you? So for you to be able to articulate that, like, hey, I really like the way that you were intentional about getting up early and eating the right breakfast and, spacing it this many hours before your event, to that way you knew you would have the right energy levels, or the research that you put in to write your book or whatever it was, apply that how you need to. But
exactly. It makes such a big difference. And I think even when people do tell you good job, it's like, not to be dismissive of that, either. But I think it just goes a little bit that extra mile to kind of add that little extra touch to it when you can expand upon it a little bit more.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like what championing is.
Like what it looks like to us. Yeah.
Yeah. At least that's the way we see it.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
But we are the law on championing.
Exactly.
No? Okay.
We're laying the law down.
No. Okay.
And then looking at like,
go ahead.
What does it require for us to champion others? And I just kind of jotted down a couple things that came to mind for me, and I want to hear what you have to say too, Evan. So number one, I put is confidence in the decisions that we make, whether it's how we rear our children, even things like the clothes we wear, how we manage our money, etc. And I think at this point, it's important to not waffle in our decisions when we see someone else doing something, a different way, because in essence, that diminishes our confidence. And I kind of think too, sometimes, looking to the right and looking to the left of us can have negative consequences on our confidence when we're not like, just staying true to what we decided to do. And then, when we are not sure of ourselves, it can be hard to champion others. I think sometimes we can be our worst critic and give ourselves the worst feedback, worse than we'd ever give to anybody else, kind of thing, And so I think,
yeah, without a doubt, I think we are our harshest critic. I'm not saying other hard critics aren't out there, because they are. Like, we'll all have the name of a person or people in our lives, or people that we've met along our path that we're like, wow, how can you be that critical? But generally speaking, the most critical person in our life is staring you in the mirror. Like, it's you.
Yeah.
At least that's my reality.
That is
Like I am
yeah.
the harshest person on me. I am my own worst critic.
Right.
But at the same thing, you bring up a lot of really good points about being confidence, being a big foundational piece of championing. So if we don't have our own self-confidence, our own like just vision of who we are and feel very supported and stable in that, then it is really hard to champion someone because like if I don't have that, I can't give it.
Exactly. And it's like, I feel like too, at least I've noticed in my life when I know what it's like when I haven't had confidence and when I have, and it's like, I'm not as threatened by other people's successes and the things they've done because I'm confident in what I've done and what I've decided and chosen to do in my life, that I'm not getting all bent out of shape because, I'm feeling threatened because they had success or whatever.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
I think that kind of goes into like what I don't really want to get exactly into what championing is not, but like when you're lacking confidence, championing, when you try to champion without confidence, it becomes like, oh, I could never do it like you.
Exactly.
So it's trying to be a compliment, but it's all it really is telling someone how bad you are. It's like, you're so good at this, I could never do it like you. When it's like I don't know even if the intention is right, because I think the intention is really fouled because they have their confidence is so low. It's just like, you're better than me.
Yeah.
All it is a way to verbalize, I think you're better than me.
Yeah, exactly.
And it might sound pretty. It might have flowers and a bow on it, but like it really is just, it doesn't do either party any good. No,
that's a really good point. That's a great point. Yeah. And then another point that I thought too of is just kind of, what does it require for us to champion others is to be kind to ourselves. When we do mess up, extend some love and kindness to yourself. When we do this for ourselves, it'll help us give it to others when they need a little bit of grace, as well. So kind of going back to what we said earlier, kind of being our own worst critic sometimes, that, giving yourself some love, just like if somebody else messed up, you would extend them some love and some grace and not totally beat them up. So kind of remembering to give yourself that as well.
Little grace. Yeah. We've had some conversations about giving grace and being the bigger person. And when we were kind of hurt over things, like, and necessarily, I don't know, it kind of can't be little, but at the same time, it was a real hurt. Like we were kind of hurt by it, but it's just like, you know what? They are going through something just as real. Mm-hmm. And yeah, like if you were to map it out, draw it all out and let anyone read it, like, yeah, that person was probably in the wrong, but it doesn't matter. Like we want that person in our life. And it's just, so I want to support them.
Exactly.
And I want to be there for them. And I will, I'm not going to keep beating them with that, like, kind of thing. So that's giving grace and forgiveness, and all these things are so intertwined. But like when we're looking at championing, you said something really cool about looking to the left and right on confidence. Mm-hmm. I don't know, like, and how that kind of like is our own confidence and showing up with who we really are. I think there's a couple different ways that you can go with that. Like you can look at that like with no confidence. If I look left and right, like I'm really just trying to take pieces of other people. Like, oh, I really like that about them. I really like that about them. I think I want to try and wear that. And I want to try and be that. And I want you to see that on me. But at the same time, like if you do have a lot of confidence, you can learn from others from the left or right. And like, oh, I really like the way they do that. I would like to not steal it, but like that perspective is good. Like, ooh, I never thought of it like that. So it's, again, giving that grace to yourself with that level of confidence to say, oh, I need to bring that into my arsenal because I really like that. And that highlights something that I'm trying to get across, but I just couldn't make the connection. Right. But I still have enough confidence to just say, well, I'm not an idiot. I'm not dumb. All these things, like I'm not going there. Like I am still talented or gifted in in this area, and I'm giving myself the grace to like, I'll never have it all figured out.
Yes.
I'm just always learning, and to be able to pick things up from left to right to kind of better round out yourself.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. And that, like, that's another way to look at it, because in my mind, I was looking at it like, kind of like what you said at first. It's
the first part of it.
Yeah, you don't have any confidence. So it's like, I got to look left and right because I got to borrow some from you.
Yeah, don't look at Evan or don't look at Anina. I want you to, when I do this, I want you to see, the polished so-and-so in that field,
right.
Or I want you to see, it's like, no. And one of the things that I really like to do is highlight things or take pieces of what I see people doing in other completely different walks or I don't know, fields, I guess. If this is athletics, maybe I'm looking to healthcare or I'm looking towards anything else, like, and you just piece it all together and you're like, I really like, that perspective on life or the way they act or the way they interact and do things. Like, I really want that to be a part, I see that and I can then cultivate who I really am and let the real Evan kind of come through that and evolve and grow into something. And, I think it enriches our environment that we're in. So like, if I can bring in pieces if people that I hold in high regard, like, oh, they do that really, really well. And this person does this really well. But it kind of flows within my vein, right? Like it's highlights different pieces of me. Like, oh, I didn't realize I could bring my humor into healthcare, or I didn't realize I could bring art into athletics or whatever, like because these are all different areas that I'm interested in. Oh, and then let me cultivate like how to bring that in. So like championing is a piece that I like and I've done, but I kind of, at first you're like, oh, I can only do it in this one area because that's how it was introduced to me. But then I realized like, oh, I can bring that into anything. I can bring that into any relationship or even new relationships, or there's not even really a relationship established. It could be peer to peer. It could be, boss to or employer to employee or coach to coachee or anything.
Yeah. So I see like you're kind of saying like when it's been modeled for you and you see it a different way, it's like, oh,
yes.
Yeah, I could do it in this area, but I never saw that as an option before, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think that might be a tangent from championing, but I think it all flows within the same vein of just like keeping your eyes open and kind of walking in the confidence of who you are. And there's one of the things that gives me the greatest joy is to be able to spot those things in people. Like, oh, that really means something. Like to highlight your values.
Exactly.
Like I can, just because I listen. I don't want to just like you're not just talking at me and I'm not just, I'm paying attention. I'm not on my phone or just waiting for the pause to insert my words.
Right.
Like I'm actually listening with intention and hearing you and being able to pick out your values and then give that back to you or highlight like, wow, that was really impactful. Like that meant something to me. I can see that means to you, something to you. And to being able to give that back to someone, I think is probably one of the easiest ways that I champion.
Yeah, it's like you're listening at that like level 3, they call it level 3 listening.
Can you give us a little rundown on what that is or what the other levels are?
Yeah, it's like
I put you on the spot. Can you?
It's more level 3 is like that you're so like you're so intently listening that like you're watching everything. You're watching the person's body language when they're talking. You're listening to the inflection in their voice. Is their body posture kind of looking differently from them what they're saying? Like they're talking about something exciting, but their body posture is like really slumped over. So it's like you're just listening so intently. And while you're listening, you're not thinking in your head, what am I going to say next? But you're so in tune, just so into the conversation that it's like you can be that present without all the background noise running. And it is a game changer. Like I know, like, is it Stephen Covey talks about like, what is it? Like we listen with the intent. I'm totally butchering this, but most of us listen with the intent not to understand, but to respond. Basically, it's something like that. Something to that effect.
I don't know if that's the exact words, but yes, that's pretty much
summed it up.
the meaning behind what that quote is. Like, yeah, I'm just listening for the pause. I'm listening, picking up keywords just to do the one-up response, or
right.
Oh yeah, but I did this, or that wasn't that bad. Listen how bad my story is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's totally different. Like we should do a podcast on that.
Oh my gosh,
that would be good. It's so cool when you can get into that zone, that level 3.
It's hard.
Yeah,
it's extremely hard.
Agreed.
Like, it is so draining to actually
listen. Yeah. It is. You're right. Cause I think,
especially if the person talking doesn't know, like say we're like you and I are in a practice of trying to level 3 listen. So we're going to speak different generally. Like if you're in like a lot of these like coaching seminars or different things where you go learn different things. So everyone is very intentional in how they talk and how they listen and their posture and, body language and everything. But like if you're just actually in a random conversation in your random Tuesday afternoon and you're like, I'm going to listen with level 3 listening, and it's tough. Like, cause people just go on wild tangents and will talk forever.
They definitely can. And then there's all that where you can interrupt some of that and kind of get down to the nitty gritty of things when you're coaching. But yeah, it can be very draining. So you do have to practice some good self-care of making sure you fill yourself back up.
Quit talking at me.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. So this one, the next one I'm about to talk about is something that like I quite honestly, totally being transparent here, struggle with for a long time. I feel like it's just in the last couple of years that I've started to like not be so threatened by this. So it's an understanding that there's room at the top for more than one person. It doesn't have to be a you or me, but it can be us.
That's tough.
Yeah, it is.
Sorry,
right?
I don't want to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Finish your thought.
I think you need to listen at level 3, please.
Oops.
So I think, too, it's important to let go of the belief that we are against each other and instead notice how we can be in something together. And really, when I look at things this way, it does give me a sense of relief, as it just really helps me reduce the feelings of feeling like I have to strive and be so competitive all the time with those around me. And when I'm not in that striving and that competitiveness type of mindset, it's like I'm able to connect with others a little bit more deeply. And something I've been telling myself too before, that I've told myself in the past that really helped me through this, is that one person's success does not rob me of mine. There's enough happiness and success for us all. It doesn't have to be a you or me. It can be us together. And I know like you and I talked in different scenarios, it's going to look different. Like you were saying when we were talking about this earlier about the, job promotion, it's not like it's necessarily going to be, we both get the promotion.
Yeah. So that was my devil's advocate pitch to that, because I get what you're saying. So where that applies, like most people that I see that scenario playing out of like, there's room at the top. Let's just say we're on a weight loss mission or healthy habits mission, right? You losing a pound or 2 does not affect my ability to lose a pound or 2. It's like, oh, you lost them, so I can't. Oh, you lost it first, so I can't. Or you ate a healthy breakfast, so I can't. Oh, the healthy breakfast is gone.
Mm-hmm.
That's not true. Like, so you're saying there is room at the top. Like your success does not have anything to do with my success.
Yeah, that's.
But the devil's advocate to that is, say we're in a race or we're going for the same promotion. There's not room at the top, right? There is only one top step to the podium. There's only one position to be had. Sometimes there's more, but like, and for the conversation's sake, like if 5 people are going for the promotion, like they're only going to pick one. So there is only room at the top for one. But where this makes the most sense and applies to most scenarios is that first scenario of like, hey, we're all trying to get healthy, or we're all trying to lose, the winter weight or whatever. It's like, like we can all do it together.
Right. Yeah, we can all do it together.
And if we're in a group, we'll probably have better success.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I know like, when I first started in my profession as a social worker and started as a coach, in my mind, it was like, oh, well, if that person's really good at, coaching people and doing podcasts, then there's no room for me because they're the best. And
oh, right.
I can't be the best
absolutely.
too. So yeah. So for me, it would just almost like put this like line in the sand of like, well, they're better. I can't do it, cause they've already arrived kind of thing. And it just, it brought up a lot of just competitiveness in me. And just a lot of just like frustration. But when I started looking at it, like, no, you can be good and so can I. And I bring something to the table that you don't and vice versa. And I think when I've learned to look at it like that, it's like, I feel way more peaceful.
If you don't mind, with your permission, I'd like to kind of go a little personal. Mm-hmm. Kind of go back in our early years of marriage. And both you and I worked through this. And when you said this was one of the areas that you used to struggle with quite a lot, it was, I'm definitely in the same boat. We both kind of had body image issues. Mm-hmm. We've still working through a lot of them, but have made huge strides.
Agreed.
So this was a plague in our marriage of not enough room at the top. Like if we'd walk into a room and, like, oh, there can only be one beautiful woman in this room.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
There's only room for one. It's like
only room for one.
Yeah. It's like, well, she's really pretty. So
I guess
I'm not.
Yeah, exactly. And that's actually, totally how I saw the world. It was like, okay, like you're the prettiest. I'm not. Wow. Like, it was, I know when I look back at it, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was so, such a waste of time and energy, but I've learned a lot through it. So it's not for nothing. It wasn't, I've learned from it. And I think you have too.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
Through those experiences.
Absolutely.
Now we're aware of it.
Yeah. One, how to be with someone who's struggling in that area. Mm-hmm. How to not like make it worse. And then, like I definitely struggled with a lot of those things myself, but but it's really fun now on the other side of it to say like, what's it even feel like to say it out loud? Like, that doesn't make any sense, but it was so real. And it was our reality at the time. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like, when I think about it, it just seems like so silly and wow, I wasted a lot of time on that. But in the same breath, it's like, I'm glad I went through that. Like I said before, because had I not, I wouldn't be where I'm at today because I actually had to work on it too.
And it really highlights one of the things that I'm probably one of the most proud of in our relationship is just our level of commitment to each other. Like, because those brought up a lot of issues.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that it did the most was it really exposed a lot of root issues in ourselves. Mm-hmm. That way we could work on it within our marriage.
That's a great point.
I think that's one of the biggest pieces, the missing pieces within marriage is we just want to work on the marriage. Well, we're two individuals coming together. And if I'm not willing to work on me, but I'm only willing to pick out all of your flaws that you need to work on, but I don't have any, but then you can flip that too of like, well, I only need to work on me because I'm such a train wreck, and my spouse, oh my gosh, they're the saving grace. I don't know how they could even, then it's the pity party side of it too. Like, one, I don't see anything wrong with me, or vice versa. There's only stuff wrong with me and my spouse is perfect.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's so true. That is so true. Yeah. Yeah. And it definitely took a lot of time. A lot of healing had to take place for both of us to really work through that. And it's not to say it doesn't rear its ugly little head up sometimes, but definitely not.
Oh, not at all like what it was.
It used to be.
Yeah, I think our relationship is on a very solid ground because we did the work in this area. And it really went through a lot of championing. Like I don't know that we would have coined it that then.
No.
But it really was. And it was really laying the foundation of what our marriage was, like why we're married, like what our commitment level to each other was, like why we're drawn to each other, all the areas.
That's a really good point. Yeah. Yeah. Looking back in hindsight, it's like, oh yeah, I guess it was a lot of championing.
Yeah. Okay. So not to get too mushy on our marriage.
Right. So on to our next point.
Yeah. So what are some things like, did you bring up jealousy?
Yeah, so I was going to talk about like why is it sometimes hard to champion others.
So that's your next point.
That's my next point. You got it. Look at that. We're in tune.
Notes. Okay.
Jealousy, exactly. So, kind of being totally honest again, is I used to struggle with jealousy a lot. Kind of like what we just said. Like, okay, you're the prettiest one in the room, or you lost 5 pounds. You're successful at losing 5 pounds. Like all of a sudden it would like kind of bring up this like competitiveness within me, but more of like a jealousy. Like, gosh, how'd they figure out how to lose 5 pounds? I've been trying to lose 5 pounds, and just woe is me, because for me it was like I had already failed in my mind because they were winning and I was losing because I still hadn't lost the 5 pounds. And that was a horrible way to live. And when I look back on it, kind of like with this other piece we just talked about, it was just a waste of time. But what I had learned too, that at the heart of jealousy, there's something that I admire or like about what the other person has achieved. And so when I can look at it a little bit more from that perspective, it helps me not be so almost like bitter or like angry with myself for not being where I feel like I should be, kind of thing. But really just having an honest conversation with myself. Like, what is it that I'm jealous about? Why is it that I'm feeling jealous about it? And like, what can I do about it? Like, okay, if I want to know how you lost those 5 pounds, why don't I have a conversation with you?
Can I pause you real quick?
Yeah.
Like, I really want to kind of highlight something like that. What you just said is super powerful. Like at the heart of jealousy, it's really noticing something that you admire in someone. So it's just being reflected or amplified off of like our own image and our own level of confidence.
Yeah.
Like, I love that they lost 5 pounds. I'm on my same journey. And yes, sister, let's do it together. Right. Versus, or if I have very poor self-image, like, oh, they lost 5 pounds. I can't lose 5. I wish I could lose 5 pounds.
Totally.
Right?
That's where I was at for so long.
But it's like, it stems off of like, one, you're being aware and noticing, and you see that they're doing work. You admire their work. Like you want to emulate the work. And that's not always a bad thing that you want to emulate the work, because it might highlight that, hey, I'm on the same path. I'm on that same journey.
Yeah.
You could either be a little bit ahead of me, or you might just be going fast. Like, it's okay if we started at the same time and you're going faster. It's okay.
It is. And also, like, I've noticed too, instead of me, how I used to do it, is stewing on it. Like when I go to the person and say, hey, how did you do X, Y, and Z? It gives them a chance to explain and kind of be the expert on what they did. And we all know it feels good when somebody comes up to us and acknowledges something we've done, and we get to share, like, almost in a way, it's like I was robbing people of the, I don't want to say like the blessing, but robbing them of being able to like share with me how they achieve what they achieved, kind of thing, if that makes sense. Because when I just sat and stewed on it and got like upset with myself for not being where they're at, it's like it didn't allow that person opportunity to.
Well, and you'd never go ask them. Like if you're sitting in jealousy, you would never walk over to them and just say, Wow, that's awesome. Congratulations. How'd you do it? What's the methods that you used,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So this gives them a chance to like explain it and feel good about like themselves and feel like the expert.
I think it is a blessing to just say, hey, I've noticed you're working super hard. Like, that's fantastic. I'm on my same journey. Like, what's working for you? Like, that is a blessing because one, they get blessed because you noticed them and the work that
That's
they're doing
true.
is paying off.
Yeah.
And then they get to speak into your life with their tips and tricks. It may not be the best way, but it's a way that they found that they feel proud about.
Mm-hmm. That's so true. Yeah, that's a good point.
And if they weren't proud of their efforts, they might become proud of their, like, oh, because they might think, I've only lost 5. I should have lost 10 by now. So it might say, oh, okay, well, I'm doing good. People are noticing.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, and it feels like a big weight has just been lifted off of me. Like ever since I've really like worked on that area of my life. I don't know. What about you? Is that like, I mean, jealousy is kind of the one that came up to me why I said it's hard to champion others.
Oh, yes. I mean, very much in that same area. Like, I wanted their results.
Yeah.
They're stronger, faster, leaner, whatever. I mean, fill in the blank. Normally, mine would come from an athletic thing, like, or it could be from anything, like financial, or you fill in the blank. Like, absolutely, it was jealousy. Like, I wanted that. Why couldn't I have that?
Right, and it's almost like using that energy to like find out from them how they did it, or if it's somebody that you don't know and it's just somebody you've seen on TV or read about, it's like, let me get curious and start researching. Hey, how can I become a millionaire? How can I do da-da-da? Whatever it is that you're wanting to work on, like expending that energy instead of sulking on woe is me, looking at how you can actually make that happen in your own life. I know easier said than done, right? But
you're putting out energy either way. One's at least productive energy and like going to create momentum, where the other one is just literally stomping on the brakes and ruining all the momentum that you may have had, and building up stress, which is never good for any path that we're on.
No,
it's extremely destructive. So
yeah, and then can we share number 2?
Yes, please.
The next point.
Yeah. You're on a roll.
I'm on a roll. Sometimes another thing of why it's sometimes hard to champion others, at least for me and what I found, is sometimes I have that mindset of scarcity rather than abundance. And kind of like I said before, it's almost like looking at things like you're winning and I'm losing, but kind of looking at it, it's like, what if we're both winning, but just in different ways?
Perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, dive into that a little deeper. Like, that's a really cool thought. Is that kind of like we're both on I guess just to kind of stay on the same thing I've been using, the weight loss thing. Is that like, okay, we both hit go at the same time of our weight loss journey, and we both have the same goal of I want to lose 10 pounds in 3 months, and you're at 5 pounds and I'm at 3 pounds, or you're at 5 pounds and I'm at plus 1 pound, like.
Right. Exactly. But yeah, it's like we're both winning, but just in different ways, kind of applying that up here. It's like, because we're both working on something that matters to us and that's important to us. And whether we're having the success in it right now or not, I think to not get so hung up on that, but to realize like, look, you're putting the effort in, you're doing something to make a change.
Yeah. And I said plus 1 on purpose because like that can still be success in motion. Like, it's eventually becoming success, because I want to say like you can still champion someone even if they gained a pound on a weight loss journey, because here's the caveat to that. Like, if they've trying something new, doesn't have to work. They just tried something new and they learned from it.
So true.
So it's like, I thought this might work. It's not.
Now I have the data.
But now I have a data point and I'm okay, and I'll just keep going, so now I have 11 pounds to lose on my 10-pound weight loss journey. But it's okay.
Yeah.
Like,
I've learned something here.
It's effort. Like, you have to be able to champion effort. Like, does that I mean, would a 1 pound weight gain on a weight loss journey, does that deserve championing? I don't know. I make that decision yourself, but I'm just saying you can support people's effort.
Exactly. Yes. And acknowledge, like you said, yeah, they're trying. You're trying something new. And wait, that didn't work. Now I know, kind of thing. So, yeah, really good point. I'm glad you threw that +1 in there, because in my mind immediately was like, well, no. Well, yeah. Yeah, that was helpful. I'm glad you threw that in there. Yeah. Anything else you have to add to this? Like why it's sometimes hard to champion others? Anything else that comes to you, Evan?
Why it's so hard?
Mm-hmm.
I think the biggest points of why it's so hard is kind of going back to just how I feel about myself.
Mm-hmm.
Do I feel like if I support you, am I being anti-support for myself? Is there only room? Is my vision of, is there only room at the top for just one? So if I support you, am I putting you on the top step and automatically removing myself? I think even if in a position of like, say the race scenario or people going after the same promotion kind of thing that we talked about there, like it's still okay to champion someone in their efforts. Like if you're my number one competitor in a race, it's still okay for me to say, hey, I've seen you've been training your guts out and you're in tip top shape and you're in peak form. You're going to be extremely hard to beat. And I want to let you know that your efforts have not gone unnoticed. You know what I mean? Like it's still okay. And then obviously I kind of want that in a way because it's going to really pull the best out of me. And I know that you're going for the top step. You're not going to give it to me.
Right.
So I have to train my best. And then you feel okay, or you feel good with, like, losing's never feels good, but it's a lot easier to handle when I know that you have poured everything into that,
That's a good
So
point.
it's still okay to champion a competitor, I think, in my opinion. Like I still want to bet on me, but it's still okay to acknowledge your effort.
Exactly. I totally agree. And it feels so good to do that. It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tough.
It's tough. Yeah. But in the end, it's just like, I don't know. I just get that little endorphin rush when I tell people like things, like championing them and just acknowledging them too. It feels really good.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, I think, like we talked about, that jealousy piece, and then just seeing my own self-worth. Like once that's established and I'm firm in that, like I have confidence, I kind of have a good image of, a good idea of who I am and my values and my morals and, my purpose and trajectory. Like if I'm solid there, it's so much easier to, I guess, love on people and be kind to people and champion and support people in their efforts. Because, I mean, really, like I think we mentioned this, like it's just creating a better environment for us to live and work in.
It is.
Like,
so true.
If I'm elevating you and I'm, lifting up this person and supporting their efforts, and hopefully that feels good to them, and they're going to do the same for the 2 and 3 people around them, and maybe even reciprocate back to me. Like we're all going to elevate.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. I love that. And it's just another way for us to model this type of behavior, because when people see it, it gives them that confidence that they can do that for other people too. So I think it's kind of like our gift to give to other people too. Yeah. So that's really all I had today.
That's all you got? No, I feel good.
Yeah.
Just baby update. He is snoozing away, so he's on the live feed here. So just in case all you guys were nervous, we've been
been neglecting our baby. But I do think too, it's important to like point out, and we've talked about this in other podcasts, just real quick. And it's a reminder for myself too, that like, everything starts as a thought, which turns into an emotion or a feeling, which then turns into an action or inaction. And sometimes it's just helpful for me to like review that with myself and just say it again, because.
Can you say that again? Because I say that one more time.
Yeah. So just remembering that like everything starts with a thought, which then turns into an emotion or a feeling, which then turns into an action or inaction. So just kind of thinking about like jealousy, like if it comes up, it's a thought and I can choose to hold on to that thought. Or, kind of like we were talking last week, or I can, capture that thought and throw it away basically. But just being very mindful of that like it does come as that thought and then becomes an emotion, like the jealousy for me. And then that woe is me kind of thing. And then my action was like, I would retreat from that person. I would kind of be dismissive, kind of give them the cold shoulder because I was jealous, basically.
Yeah.
So,
and I do want to highlight the part that you said inaction on the end of that too, because in essence, that kind of is it's putting something. You're either putting something in motion or inhibiting motion, and I think it's so the thought is neutral, right? And it's just my emotion that I attach to that. Like you had a thought of, kind of going back to what you were saying, like she's beautiful. That's neutral. It's how you feel about it. Like, wow, it's great that there's another beautiful woman in the room. Or, well, she's beautiful. That means no one else in the room can be beautiful.
Right. We're all
like,
chopped.
Yeah, we're all, she got it. There's only room for one.
Yes. And then the action of what you do is.
Yeah. And then the action of like being sour towards your husband or, withdrawing or whatever, wanting to leave or.
Exactly. It can show up in so many different ways.
Yeah. You're not engaging with anyone.
You're just sulking in the corner now. Yeah. And that's what I did for far too long. But anyways, that's
okay. Let's land this plane.
Let's land it. Zoom.
So championing, supporting, advocating, loving on people, right? It's picking out the specific things that you notice, their efforts, their not necessarily achievements, but their efforts and their where they're putting their energy into. It's finding it, it's relaying it back, tying it back to their values and delivering that to them, right?
Yes.
Being very intentional and specific with your
remarks, your comments,
yes.
the feedback that you're giving them.
Feedback.
Yeah. Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
So try it out. I think, like you mentioned, the level 3 listening. I think just try it out. Like find someone who means something to you, or just pick a day. Like, okay, Tuesday at noon, I'm gonna just champion the first person I see. Whatever.
There
I don't know.
Go. Yeah.
However you need to make it work in your life. It's really fun. It brings so much joy into an atmosphere. Just the level of gratitude goes up through the day. Like you're excited, like knowing that like, oh, today's the challenge I'm going to do for championing. Like you're kind of excited and it's fun.
It is fun. It's like, I'm going to catch something today, catch someone being like, I think like in schools, like when I did school social work, I'm like, I'm going to catch a student being good.
But that's actually really powerful and it really works.
It really works. Yeah. I'm just going to catch you doing some greatness today. And
well, just to kind of wind this thing down, just for next week, we will have our second guest on.
Yes.
Just a quick, we're going to have Dr. Brittany Connors, just a good dear friend of ours, Dr. of OT, and she's just doing some phenomenal things.
Yes. Yeah. It's definitely looking forward to it.
You guys are going to love her. Like her energy level that she brings is just like through the roof. Like you'll be smiling, like just listening to her, you'll be like smiling off your face. It's fantastic. Like
it is.
You're going to love her.
Yeah.
I'm very excited for that conversation. I guess nothing super new with us. Like we're just kind of going day by day now, like trying to figure out how to be parents. Yeah. It's so much fun. Like we waited a long time and I'm just so grateful to be a dad finally. But all right. Thanks Tribe for hanging with us.
Yes.
And with that, I guess, remember to go forward in power,
love,
and a sound mind.
Have a great week, everyone. Bye.
Peace.